there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome to Being Human, Hidden Depths. And my name is Jill Tiny, and I'm speaking on behalf of the community at Collaboration Global. And one of our members, I'm very excited to say, has a new endeavour, and I'm desperate to find out more about it. So I invite, for the second time, Anne Scottlin to the show. Welcome, Anne.
Oh, thank you, Jill. It's just such a treat to spend a few minutes with you. And the fact that we get to have people watch our conversation is even better.
How many times have we had a chat when we go, oh, we should be recording this? It's really
I know. I've actually told my producer that, if I'm doing any pre-recorded podcasts, to let it run at the end and don't turn it off, because some of the best stuff comes after we say cut.
Yeah, I really want to do a podcast episode of all the outtakes, the bit beforehand when you that would be fun.
Super fun. So yes, so happy to be here, and new adventures going on my end.
You're a lucky girl. I mean, there are so many things that have happened. If anybody's interested in the background to Anne, you can go back and look at our previous episodes where she talked about her incredible life and what she's been up to. She fits more into her lifetime than most people can do in 300 years, I think. You make me breathless with what you have been doing in your life. And then she comes up with something else. But you know what? This Podcast Maestro, we can see it behind Anne there on the screen. It makes such sense. When you first told me about it, I'm like, how comes you've not been doing this before? Of course, you're the Podcast Maestro. Of course, you should be teaching us how to do this, because you've been so successful in your own right around doing this. So when did the penny drop for you that you needed to kind of start sharing your wisdom with other people?
Well, actually, from Collaboration Global, believe it or not, because it was one of your guests who I did a private session with, Dave Crane, who I said, listen, I've been spending years and years doing all this production. All during COVID, I was doing, podcasts to particularly support emotional wellness with emotional wellness guests and experts. And then, and that was also, it was all about joy and, finding the bright side. And then I was doing the social entrepreneurship for over a year as a show. Now, I'm still a social entrepreneur, and I'm a huge fan of social entrepreneurship. But I decided that the direction was, it's just, I felt that I had more experience and talent in the things I've already done for ages. So instead of reinventing the wheel, I'm like, I'm going to continue to support all the global social entrepreneurs I know. We've still got that show on my site if anyone wants to check it out. It's an absolutely great show. And but I thought, I'm just going to move into an area of expertise and find a clientele that is looking for a plug and play podcast maestro, the kind of person who says, I always wanted to do it, I never did, I'm an expert in my field. Can you just do it for me? Can I just show up for 25 minutes and everything else happens by magic? And I'm like,
that's very appealing. I like that. That's so appealing. It's like when someone is going to, let me teach you strategy for your marketing. I'm like, oh, can't you just do it, please?
I know. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Yes. We even do the social media aspect of all of the podcast promotion.
Wow. That's very
we get you streaming on multiple platforms of social media, as well as all the other ones, audio, video. So you're blanketing it. If no one can find you, then that's their fault.
Yes. This is the thing, isn't it? It's like, how do you become visible? So if you're going to be saying everybody needs a podcast, everyone should have a podcast. What's the reason why? I mean, for a long time, people were saying, you've got to be visible on LinkedIn, do it. Then it's like, well, you really should have a book as well, because that's a great calling card. And a lot of people have done that as well, although it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And now obviously the in thing, the trendy thing is to go out and get a podcast. But do you think everyone should or could, or do you think it's something that's for a specific sort of business or person?
I think it's less about a specific business and more about a person. There are people who know, I'm also a writer, as are you, and we can excel in both those fields. But there are people who know that, they aren't the best writer and writing is agonizing, but they may know that speaking comes naturally. And they may know a lot of people to interview, or they want to do a solo show. It's more about, is their message something passionate that they've invested decades of their life in, but they haven't been able to spread that message around? And I don't care whether you're an organic farmer in Wyoming or whether you are a tech guru in Sudan, or whatever your area of expertise is. You could be on Wall Street, you could be a doctor, a lawyer, it doesn't matter. Whatever your area of expertise, is that something that you think you could really benefit from? I find a lot of people at a certain stage of their career, they're kind of drawn to mentoring naturally, and they begin mentoring people. But sometimes they realize when they start mentoring how much wisdom they actually have gained, and how they have a really unique experience and perspective that could really help everyone else. So there's multiple reasons to want to have a podcast. One, you just want to spread a message you're absolutely passionate about. You don't really care about views or numbers, or you just want the people who need your message to find it. Those tend to be a little less specific and harder to market, but if it's your passion, you should just do it. Then there's the one that's like, listen, I'm going to teach. This is the example I use as a silly one, is like, I did sit by a guy on a plane though, who writes manuals for a living. Like, he writes like those things that come with your toaster and your coffee maker.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I was like, and it gives him joy. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad for you that
someone has to do it.
But I use that as a dry example, but it's not the subject matter that has to be so fascinating. It's finding your niche. It's finding your people. If you became the expert at this and had a podcast that had 500, 1,000 loyal followers in a particular area, it could be art, it could be comic books, it could be a million things, then those are your niche people. And if you're trying to convert that into business, that's valuable. If you have 100,000 viewers, but none of them are converting into business and the show is very general, as long as you're having fun, great. As long as you have money to keep putting out content, great. So it really depends on what is your business and what is your objective.
Also, I think if you're talking about the mentoring thing, it's a bit like writing a book. If you know that you've got wisdom and advice that other people can utilize, why would you not do it? How dare you not do it? Because there are people out there that are waiting for your information and your knowledge and your experience, and you can share that rather than go one-on-one, having that kind of work ethic and working with one person, which is great, and a lot of people still do that. But if you can broadcast to as many people as possible, look how many lives you could potentially transform. So I would suggest, if you know, as you say, there's decades of wisdom, then it's time to share it, and a podcast could be the perfect way. And it might be that you don't know how to share it, like me and Anne, we can gab the hind legs of a donkey, but sometimes you need someone who's really good at asking questions to help you to unpack what you know in a clear and concise way. Is that something you do as well, Anne? Do you become the interviewer in certain cases?
Yes, so I can. So what's really interesting is that all of the things I've done in my very nonlinear career have really come together here, because from being in academia to being an actress in Hollywood to all the other things, as you said, my very exciting and adventurous and sometimes exhausting, but also fun life. All that experience behind the camera, in front of the camera, my experience as an ongoing business coach, all of those things have come together and said, I can coach you. I can help people who say, I don't mind speaking, but I have zero camera presence. I don't know how to dress. I don't particularly like how I look on camera. I don't, but I feel like I'm still drawn to a video type podcast, which is very trendy because people can listen to it even if it's a video, but they can't watch it if it's only audio.
Yeah.
So I can give them advice on colors, on clothes, on style, on hair, on how to be shiny and not shiny, on how to set up their studio. I can send them a whole packet just of the equipment they need so they never have to think about it again, and within, an affordable terms. So I can say, listen, they're like, okay, I want to talk about being an elementary school teacher because I was one for 35 years. And I see a huge need, XYZ here, that teachers should really be aware of, and nobody's talking about it. But I don't even know where to start. How would I even, put together what do adults want to hear? I've been teaching kindergarten. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, well, cool, awesome. So the other thing I could do is sit down. I basically just interview you, have a private interview, and say, tell me about what it is. Tell me your passion. What is it you really want to share? And we can get as specific as you like. I have clients where they tell me their general topic. And for their first season, I will come up with 20 topics for them and let them pick 10.
Wow.
And after that, I'll say, I'm going to break down into bullets your entire presentation, even your commercial break, everything. I'm going to have you look across that in advance if you want to, or just show up and you're going to talk off the cuff, and me and my team are going to produce for you behind the scenes. So we're actually going to be there to help you make sure everything is going smoothly, send you live chat messages if you need to fix something, or if you're doing a live show, people are coming in and asking questions.
Yeah.
And so it's from the very beginning on. It really depends. If you have a message and you think it's time to it be shared, then time should no longer be the enemy. Like, I would love to, but I'm already doing 6 things. And that's the thing. A lot of the most helpful and wise people in the world are already doing 6 things. And they're like, I can't even conceive of doing a podcast. Everyone's been begging me for years, but I'm like, this is the perfect kind of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, why didn't I know you when I started 3 or 4 years ago? I'm curious though, you can deliver that, which is amazing. You've just told me loads of things I didn't even realize, which is fantastic. But what attracts you to a podcast when you're listening as a listener? What's the sort of thing that makes you go, oh, I'm going to listen to the next episode and the next episode?
I really like how to anything. Whether it's Tim Ferriss 4-Hour Work Week, he has and he's got the the 4-hour body and the 4-hour, all the other things, right? But I love listening to how-tos. And I also really love people, no matter what they're not going to call themselves philosophers, but people who have deep philosophical thoughts about life and the world. That's very interesting to me. Stories are great too, but I really like having a thought-provoking experience when I'm listening. So I think that is a big piece for me. Another big piece for me is obviously just the worldview on the podcast, and that's a personal preference. Like, is it heart-focused, heart-based? Is it putting other people first, or is it just some kind of, not to be mean, narcissistic trip that someone's on?
Oh yeah, there's some of
Because
that.
I also tell people, and this isn't about egos. It's okay if you want to have a brand and a name in the face, but that's not all it's about. I love the energy of Guy Raz with how I built this famous show. He was on NPR. It's an NPR podcast, which is he interviews some of the best entrepreneurs in the world and discovers how they did it from the ground up. Yeah. It's very much how to. It's like, that is something you can listen to every single episode and walk away with new information, and not just general information, but very specific information about starting your own business. So I think that also is, to my last point on that, is you want your podcast to be about exactly what it's about. You want people to know that they can tune in at any time and get very specific information. For example, as you know, one of my other ridiculous pastimes is, medieval historian on British history of all things, of course. Yes. Women writers, yay. Yeah. And, so I have, I love history podcasts, or, but I know when I tune in exactly what I'm going to get. It's not all over the place. Like this week, I'm going to talk about being a history teacher. Next week, we're going to study the Crusades. Next week, we're going to talk about World War II. It's too all over the place. It's history. But for me, I have to work too hard going through the playlist to find the ones I want. I want to be able to like, I can go to this particular one and always get what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
really
that's what niche is.
I think for me, what I love about podcasts generally is when they tell a good story, when you can really beginning, middle, and end, and it's like a journey that they've been on, or that the experiences that they've had, and it just comes to you, and you hear some voices, and you're like, oh, and you just want to sink into that story and kind of identify with that person. And you feel like you're getting the truth about them. You know, their authenticity shines through.
Absolutely.
I like that podcast you just talked about, that guy that explains.
Guy Raz, yeah.
What was his name? Sorry?
Guy Raz, R-A-Z.
R-A-Z, Guy Raz. Okay, brilliant. Another one that our readers might like to listen to that I kind of enjoy is Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. I don't know if you guys have come across Stephen yet over in the US. And of course you have come across Simon Sinek.
Oh yeah.
His a little bit of optimism. You know, he's the son I never had, that boy. He's just, we are so in tune, but he just hasn't met me yet. So if I was to start my podcast tomorrow, how would you kind of illustrate to people? And I know you spoke about this at our Collaboration Global session on Tuesday, which was brilliant, by the way. If anybody wants to catch it, Anne's presentation is on our YouTube channel now, Collaboration Global. Just have a little search. But how do you stand out from the crowd? What makes a good podcast, either visually or in an audio way? Not necessarily from the technical point of view, but someone says, I've got this podcast, how do I stand out from the crowd? What would you suggest?
Well, I think echoing back to something you just said, which was how much you enjoy stories. And I love stories that are told for example or entertainment. To support other points. There's sort of, I don't even know what that's called, but I enjoy that. Like I'm going to learning a how-to, but it's sprinkled throughout with, you know, entertaining and interesting stories. I have a whole episode on this. If anyone wants to check the playlist, you can pop over to the website, which is annescottlin.com, go to the show. And I have a whole episode just on the art of storytelling for podcasting. And it's just, it's a fun episode. So you might want to check that out. So stories, absolutely. That's what people want to see and hear. And this is why the whole entertainment industry thrives to such an extent. It's about stories. So you can use education, what is it now? Education plus edutainment.
Yes.
Edutainment. So educate, but make it fun and interesting. And then no matter who you are, and I don't care whether it's podcasting, speaking, or anything else, but bringing your authentic self to it is one of the keys to success, because people are sick of looking and hearing at just like perfect life people talking about perfect life things and nothing ever goes wrong and everything's perfect and you can work with me because my life is perfect. And it's like, blah, right? So people want to hear what you're going through. People want to hear real life things. You don't have to be all fancy for your show. You can be you. It depends on the theme and nature of your show. You know, I have a Hollywood background. I like production. I like dressing up. So I have fun with it. That gives me joy. Someone else, they're literally, you know, wearing their ball cap and there's no rules in podcasting. I think that's one of the things. You know, you can literally come in your sweats and your ball cap and no makeup or whatever, right? Although guys, you should still wear a little powder because you do get shiny. But I can tell you which one to get.
Yeah.
No one will know. I promise. No one will know. But yeah, be authentic, tell stories, and make it about your listener and viewer, just like anything else. When you make it about you, it just becomes a production for you. When you make it about the viewer, what is your ideal viewer or listener needing desperately that you have to offer? Make it about them. Do your research. Don't just talk to the wind. Do your research. What are people dying to find out that you have skill and experience in? Then you can really help them. If you're authentic and you're helping people with real problems and you make it entertaining and interesting and tell stories, that's really a winning combination.
Yeah. Do you know what? Because when you consider there are so many podcasts out there that are just somebody having a rant, somebody having a go, somebody just being angry at the world. And you can listen for an episode and you go, yeah, I see your point. The second episode, third, no way. You're just not going to do it because it's exhausting. listening to people. You want to take something from it. You want to be able to grow from it. You want to be able to learn something from it. You want to go, oh, I get where you're coming from. Oh, I see. Yeah, that's interesting. Rather than that, oh gosh, yeah, that's a bit of a rant. Oh, get off your soapbox, mate. You don't need to keep going on about that again.
Right.
It's this balance, because we're all now into going out for a walk and getting in touch with nature. If you're going out for a walk and you've got something plugged into your head that's going to be, testosterone right at you because they're angry and they're upset and they want to just rant at the world, you're not doing yourself much good, really, internally, are you? I don't think
No,
so.
I mean, and I think that's, and that's really, lucky for viewers, that's really consumer choice,
Yeah.
From being, both of us knowing a lot about mindset and emotional wellness, and, choosing what you listen to is so important. That's why I gave up watching the news about 8 years ago for very specific. Oh, did I say that out loud? Okay. Anyway, I gave up watching the news a few years ago.
And you've not missed much, to be honest with you.
Well, I get it all anyway. It's pure
still comes through.
saturation. You can't go into a pub or a restaurant without seeing a TV on. You open up your social media, which I'm very active on, and I almost don't consume hardly any. I just produce. So, but when I'm there, you just happen to run across stuff, or then your husband or your friend says, "Can you go look?" And I'm like, so then you can stay informed. But as far as watching news for entertainment, I've literally given that up, and that was a big deal for me because I used to literally be a news junkie.
Right.
I'll go all the way back to things like, and I don't mean in a complimentary way, but obsessed. Like, I would say all the way back to like 9/11, like just not being able to stop watching the drama that was unfolding. There was nothing wrong with that. But that's kind of how I started living, like, through the news in a very weird way. And this possibly because I had lived such an incredibly sheltered life, and TV was new to me as a young adult.
You can understand it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But then realizing that it was bringing me down.
Yeah.
And I said, no, my gift is being a light. And so why, the old phrase, right? Hide it under a bushel, hide it under a basket. Let your light shine. Whatever that is that makes you excited, that's your light. That's your podcast. That's how you reach out to people. It's not my talent to solve the world's political and economic and religious woes.
No.
But what I can do is bring people tools that energize them and uplift them. I can be a social entrepreneur to help make the world a better place for everyone. And I can bring my joy and happiness to whatever I'm doing. It doesn't just have to be in one area. So but I'm very sensitive. I have empathic nature. It's why coaching and things have come and teaching is so natural for me. But we also take on the weight. You can't have those natural gifts and not, the world can get you down really fast. So you have to really have boundaries in order to still bring light. Otherwise you go out.
But you need to be fed as well, don't you? This is the thing.
Absolutely.
Being around that, what's the expression? You be the drain or a radiator. So you
need
to radiate.
I've never heard that one. I like that one a lot. Yes, that's excellent. Absolutely.
And this is what I like about being around you. This effervescent energy of positivity and power. I feel like I'm drinking it all in so that I can be 2 feet taller than I am normally. I was just talking to somebody earlier about when people meet me in real life, they're like, "Oh, aren't you short?" Because they expect me to. But I'm around people like you, it helps. Okay.
The podcasting, it is true. I had a client who I'd worked with on video coaching for 2 years. Great client. And he just assumed that I was, like 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah.
He'd seen one picture of me in a suit, and somehow just the way it was shot, he just thought I was average to taller.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm closer to your height. And little did I know, because I just see him sitting in a chair, in front of his computer. He was 6'6".
Whoa! Wow!
Like, if we were in the same room together, I couldn't even look at you. So this is great.
Oh, it's funny, isn't it? But then going through a podcast again is that you can, although you're being authentic yourself, you're standing on the shoulder of giants, because there are other people that are going to be sharing sort of similar knowledge to what you are, and you can pick and choose from all of those people. One thing I do want to ask is, I remember when I first started, I'm talking about 3 or 4 years ago when I first dabbled, And I'm not a technophobe really, but I don't like it. I don't like having to go and research the right camera or the right microphone, or whether my laptop can cope with this level or that level, and how. If somebody is nervous, they really want to share their stuff, but if they're nervous about creating all the tech that goes with building a podcast, what would you say to them for that?
Well, I would say, first of all, just so they know, I hate it. I absolutely hate the tech part. I am not a techie. I am tech handicapped. But this is why I learned the hard way out of sheer willpower, asking people, researching. I hated every minute of it. It was not fun for me. There's lots of other things that other people would consider work that I would do for free for fun. This is not one of them. So what I did was I asked experts. I surrounded myself with a team who knows this stuff inside and out. And now I have it so worked out that I can just plop that in the lap of my clients and they don't ever have to think about it again. No. It's, we're not the call center, but we can really help you with, if you have a Mac, if you don't, if you this, if you that, what's your light, what's your internet, can you get on an Ethernet, can you get on a landline, can you turn your wireless off? Like, we have 100 solutions for problems. And personally, which is partly why I say I help people create a world-class podcast, is that's the area of expertise I really want to feature. This isn't a budget podcast, it's a world-class podcast. So we want you to look and feel your best. We want your environment to be your best. So you basically have a whole team of people saying, oh, we can take care of this. We can fix this. Let me mail you a different background. Let me help you with that. So it literally, when I say plug and play, I mean plug and play. Like, that's what it is. It's kind of the Rolls Royce of podcasting.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And what you were saying the other day as well is that it is the visual side of things as well, because it isn't just about the audio podcast. It is about, your branding and how that fits in with the podcast, and whether it's going to be the same as what you've got or a slight variation. And you even went down into the colors as well. It was just so much attention to detail. It blows my mind, because all of this stuff that you're talking about has taken me years to kind of get around and get into the habit of, and even now I know it's still rough around the edges, so can't wait to have a proper conversation with you around.
Well, it becomes instinctive for me, so it's actually really fun for me. So there's one of the things that is really fun for me. Very visual, worked in front of and behind the camera for so long. Like, I actually was on they had a call yesterday with another collaboration global member, and they were talking about their branding and their colors, and they had been in the meeting, and they asked me, and after listening for a few minutes, I said, well, based on what you just said about what color you painted the walls in your room this weekend, and based upon the colors on your shirt right now, these are your 3 colors. And they're like, that is me. So, and then it's like, yes. And there were reasons even for it. Like, it matched their personality, their energy, kind of the whole. I said, here's the thing. You want your brand to be a place where you walk in and feel wonderful. Because you are at home in your own environment of, I like brightness. I like lights. I have a house with lots of windows, at home. My branding is all colors and up and light, and it's just who I am. And I love being in my own space. And when you're in that level of kind of pleasure in your own space, your own branding, people will feel it. Yeah. And then they will also start saying, oh, I'm going to go hang out in that space, because it may or may not be their favorite colors, but if the space gives them a positive feeling, they're going to keep coming back. And you want them to feel that way, whether they're listening to your podcast, on your website, on LinkedIn, wherever they're watching on YouTube, whatever that is. You want them to have like, go into my, the happy space.
It is, isn't it? It is that happy place. We forget there are so many different levels of the subconscious working, and how it kind of makes you feel internally. And you leave a meeting, like everyone says at Collaboration Global, it's a great vibe, a great energy, but you want people to leave feeling good about themselves and feeling like, that was time well spent. I love that. Yes. So I think I'm going to paint my back wall now, aren't I? I'm going to have to go.
Yay, do it. But this is one of those things that I find hold people back. Like, some people don't have any preference and they're fine. They don't care what their colors are. And it's a personal choice. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not like the kind of marketing strategies that I focus on. but it's just too much, honestly, for unless this is all you do. It's just too many details. I am detail oriented, type A, firstborn, Capricorn, whatever you want to call it. I do this for fun.
Yeah.
So I say, let me help you and let me, whoever, like
Yes.
just handle it to you. Basically, I can hand it on a plate. You can make up a few choices, and that's all you have to do because it's effortless for me. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, how do I pick a mic? It's just the whole
Yeah. It's painful. So what would be the first 3 things you would do if you're starting a brand new podcast tomorrow, or if you've already got one and you want to go check that you've got everything? What's 3 things that people could do straight away?
Well, straight away, that almost nobody ever does is deeply research the closest competition you have.
Wow.
So what are the other networking groups that are similar to Collaboration Global? Who are they reaching out to? Who are the clienteles that are reaching back to them? How are they monetizing their podcast? So looking at other podcasters who have a similar message so that you can either become part of the greater community and involve yourself there. And that means giving value, guys, not just stealing followers. That's totally different, but creating value, sharing, becoming part of a bigger conversation. You can become friends with some of your greatest competitors and co-promote each other. If you niche enough, you don't have to worry about stealing their clients per se, because they do something else. Like this week, I was a guest on a podcast of a guy who does all kinds of video production, and he helps people take images from their phone that they can just cast anywhere, and they don't have to use like the phone, the computer, a million different platforms to do things. He simplifies, and he helps people do that. And he has an app. And I'm like, this is great because I don't use an app. I'm more of the concierge level kind of person here with what I offer. And, we're in similar space, but we're definitely not in competition. He's a great podcaster. Like, we could co-promote, we could co-advertise, we could exchange all kinds of things to help promote each other's business. So get away from the old greedy feeling of like, people are going to steal my stuff. That's the way of the previous century, Cold War. And this is essentially about, opening up, giving, but study your competition, because guess what? Especially if you're a new podcast, they've already learned the hard way. Look at the successful ones, obviously, and avoid having to learn the hard way. Learn it from watching them. Watch their really old episodes. Watch some of their new episodes. Look at how many views they were getting on the old episodes and what they're getting now. See what they're doing and see how you can be different enough, but also still be creating that content that's clearly getting a lot of attention.
That's a really good point, because you don't want to be out there starting from scratch and just winging it, because people aren't going to listen for a second time, are they? They're going to be, well, that wasn't great, so I'm not going to bother the second time. But if you've done that research and you're aware of what your own strengths are as a result of looking at what the other people are doing, then you're going to own it.
You can, and it's absolutely true. And I think the second point I would make about what to do if you're starting a new podcast is start. So there's a balance, as in all things, 2 sides to every coin. Between I have a couple clients that are so research intensive, they're on that side of what, intelligence, and that they can't ever be ready enough to start anything. And like they're handicapped. Then I have people who start, and it's the quality and the production and everything is such a disaster, and the internet goes out 17 times in the middle, and it's like it's literally agony to listen or watch. So there's a balance. So do some research and start. And if you have all those capabilities, do it. If you need someone like me or someone similar to do that for you, to do the research or to get you started, then just do that. But you never know what tomorrow you have. If you have a message that is important to the world that you can contribute and leave behind as part of your own legacy, is sharing with others what you've learned over the course of a career, of a lifetime, the wisdom, do it while you can. Take advantage of this opportunity. In technology, it's never been easier. So, make it happen. Even if you try it, I usually do a 110 episode season for clients, and then they decide what they want to do from there. So if it's just feeling fabulous, let's do season 2. If they're like, this was really fun, and I feel like I itched to scratch and I'm good now, then that's fine too. But at least they did it. At least they've started.
And I think when you're doing it for that right reason, when you found that purpose of why you're doing it, then you've got that kind of commitment to get it done, and whether it's a season or whether it's ongoing. And then after a while, it becomes a joy, like this. You and I, old friends, having a chat, sharing stuff, showing off your wonderful skills and talents. And before you know it, other people are going to be going, oh, I need to talk to Anne about podcasts. I think as well, one of the benefits I've found is the old repurpose. You know, if you've got a video and somebody said something that's gold dust, I will take that. I will edit that a little bit and I shall pop it on X or wherever I fancy putting it. It's good for you. It's good for the person that you interview. It's good for your business. And it just gives you loads more content that you can utilize rather than having to reinvent the wheel every time you want to go on LinkedIn or do something else. So
it's so true. I mean, I'm literally drowning in content, which is an absolute luxury compared to, you know, back in the day where it was just like everything was just so hard. And yeah, the fact that, you know, and we do that, I do that for clients too. We take their footage, we pull all their video clips, we give them choices of clips to pick from, or we pick them for them. Different clips for different things. One can be a teaser for their next episode on the front. It's like coming up soon, like a great laugh you have in the show, even if it's not like on theme, right? Then you can have the one that goes on your social media, a video that goes on your social media. Then you can have like some of the best that are going to go on your website. It's literally, I mean, you can put videos in your newsletters. I mean, they go everywhere. So yeah, there's no shortage. And that's really a really amazing thing. And it really helps spread the word as well. Because even if someone isn't able to get over and watch the show, they're getting little bits and pieces until you're still becoming a thought leader in your field, which is the objective that I have, is like, you want to become a thought leader in your field. Those are the people I'm looking to work with.
Well, on that note, I think that's well said. And dear listener, I'm sure you will realize that there is so much more to this conversation than we've just had in this brief time together. But you've hopefully got a taster of what it's like to start your own podcast and why you should start your own podcast and the value of being a podcaster. And if nothing else, be a guest on somebody else's podcast. If that's the first point of call, if you've never done anything like that before, that's a great starting place. But ultimately, get your wisdom out there. That's what needs to be out there. And then if you repurpose it, before you know it, you could have a book from the podcast. Who knows where it could take you?
Absolutely. Because now I can give the clients the transcripts of all their podcasts and everything else. I mean, it's just incredible. Seriously, if you're scared to write a book, but you think you could do a good podcast, do the podcast and then let someone help you write a book, because the content will all be there. I mean, it'll be fantastic. So yeah, I think that's the real opportunity that people have now that in the past they haven't.
Awesome. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Anne. So if somebody wants to get hold of you because they're desperate to get their podcast off the ground or revamped, or just try it for the very first time, how do they get hold of you?
Sure. So easiest way is just go to my website, which is annescottlin.com. And if you're listening only, it's spelled A-N-N-E, Anne with an E. And the last name Scotland, not like the country, Scottlin, annescottlin.com. Or you can go to Zoom. Zoom. Yeah, you can come Zoom. That'd be fine with me. We can have a Zoom call. You can go to LinkedIn, or you can just email me directly, contact@annescottlin.com. I would love to hear your thoughts, questions, ideas, and be sure that if you haven't been to a Collaboration Global meeting recently, that you come on over, because this is where the magic happens. I went through my list a few weeks ago over the last year and a half, and I realized that my favorite people that I've met and networked with over the year and a half have been either directly from Collaboration Global or friends of friends that I've met because I was involved with Collaboration Global. So I have that to thank you for, Jill.
Wow, I love hearing stories like that. That's brilliant to know. How many people go back and look at all their connections? But of course, if you want to meet Anne as well, come to one of our guest sessions, because she'll be there. And you can have a little chat with her there. So that's at collaborationglobal.org. You can go on and book yourself onto one of our guest sessions that happen every month. Thank you so much, Anne. That's given me a whole new insight into our podcast and what we can do with it and what we can possibly, like I said, I want to paint the back wall now. Didn't even think about that in a podcast. I thought we'd be talking technology, but thank you so much. And I look forward to our next conversation very, very soon. Take care.
As always, thanks. Bye-bye.